I do a quick video on the tail bag of what I carry on the bike, and then what I carry on me with the with my backpack. So there's the bag and all my gear of what I carry. What I'll do is I'll pull all this stuff out. I know where everything's at. It works really good, and if you pack it right, it fits a lot of stuff. So let me take and unpack it. I'll lay it on the table and show you what I have. Starting over on the left, tire pressure gauge, got a hand pump, tube. I do not use a heavy-duty tube as a spare. I use a standard tube because it folds easier, and I'm only trying to get home, typically after a flat. So for space reasons, I go with a standard tube. I also wrap it in an old tube so it doesn't rub against anything, and I put some an old tube around the valve stem so the valve stem stays straight right off the tube and it's not bending one way or the other. Some extra valves in case I need them, and some valve stem nuts. Of course, the valve remover, a little bit of emery cloth if I need it. Over here I got my spoons, and this doubles. These are real light, and this doubles as an axle nut remover for the front and rear axle as well. I bring an iron. I do most of the work with the spoons, but I'll use the iron to help hold the tire as I use the spoons to remove it. Why 3? Because 3 is better than 2. That's about the only way to put it. Got some zip ties here, and then some safety wire, both kind of a steel safety wire, and then some copper. Bottle opener. Never know, there may be out there on the trail, and someone may have left behind a nice ice-cold cooler full of beer, and if so, then I'm going to need a bottle opener. You got some wire here that I bring with me just in case something happens, something burns up. I got to rewire something, so just some small gauge wire. Spare spark plug. Inside here is just an assortment of KTM bolts and some screws. For the bike, both with shoulders and washers and stuff like that. Just an overall assortment for the bike. I bring that with me. Duct tape. Just fold strips over itself and make it nice and flat. You don't need a lot, but enough to cover some areas if you need it. You can even use this in a medical situation if you need it. Some electrician's tape, in case, again, I'm doing some of that wiring or I got something chafing and I need to just wrap it around. Some trail marking tape, that's all that is, in case we start getting lost or we want to mark a new trail, or maybe there's a hazard out there we need to warn other bikers about, then we'll go ahead and mark that. Some quick steel, always good to have. Hopefully never have to use it. Tools over here, the tools go from a 6mm up to a 17mm, but for this bike, half of these wrenches you can't use because those size nuts aren't on the bike. But I bring it because you never know who you're riding with. And if your buddy is stuck on the trail, then guess what? You're stuck on the trail too. So it's good to have a good assortment of wrenches just in case you got someone else riding. Maybe it's got a different brand bike than you do, and you can help them out. Pair of vice grips, a mirror, of course wire cutters if you need that. This sits up on top of my bag, inside of course, but up on top. This is what I grab in case I'm in a hurry. You know, I got a screwdriver with a Phillips on one end, and you pull it out, and it's a flat-bladed screwdriver on the other end. I put a hose over it so it doesn't puncture anything in the bag while it's vibrating around. Of course, pliers and an adjustable wrench. We got a little Y wrench here with a 10mm, 8mm, and 6mm on it. You can do most anything on the bike, you know, adjusting the controls, taking off the tank, shrouds, stuff like that, the seat, all with this. So real handy. Allen wrenches, all different sizes, just, you know, adjust assortment, and some Torx. Of course, the Leatherman talked about earlier. Some disposable gloves in case I need them. Here's all my fuel stuff. So extra fuel filters and a little ring here for the quick disconnect if I need that. And then these little fuel, I forget what you call them, but covers, I guess. One for the quick disconnect, and one for the tank, and one for the quick disconnect, just to kind of keep all the dirt out of there if you're on the trail and you got your tank off. But always good to have some spare filters with you. I carry a chain breaker with an extra link if I need it. And I think that's covered just about everything on here, except for these last two items. Inside the bag up here in this area, and also in a Ziploc baggie where it's waterproof, I got a Bear Grylls little survival kit. So it's got matches and mirrors and rope and twine and hooks and stuff like that in there. Nice little compact survival kit. I have that with me. Some spare matches as well. Of course, it comes with a little knife here. If I get stuck out on the trail, there's a few things I want to be able to do. I want to be able to light a fire if I need to, so that's why I got the spare matches, not only just the waterproof ones, but some other ones as well. And I want to be able to get some water in case I run out of water and I have to go looking for water, whether it be a pond or a stream or whatnot. When I get to that point, I always carry this with me, and it's an old gas tank fuel sock is what it is. This is actually a new one that's never been used. But I'd use this for twofold. One, I could scoop the water up with it and it will filter the water very, very good. And then I can take that water and let it drip into a Ziploc baggie and then use my tablets from here to purify the water. Second way I can use it is if I'm out somewhere and I'm run out of fuel. And if I either have to siphon some fuel or if I have to pull fuel from wherever, and I don't really know the history of that fuel or what's in that tank, I can put this sock in my tank and then just siphon right through it, and that'll help clean that fuel out so I'm not putting particles of rust and stuff like that into my fuel tank when I don't need to. So that's pretty much it for the tools I carry. I probably carry a little bit more than the average person, but it all fits in the bag. I know where it's all at. I'd rather have something and not need it than need it and not have it. So with that, that's my tail bag, and now I'll get into my Camelback backpack. Okay, the backpack, the Camelback Hog backpack, and what I typically carry in it. This is pretty much it. What stays in it all the time, so that way it's ready to go. And then if I need something particular when I go, then I just grab that and add it to it depending on the ride. So I'll start off here. I always got power bars. I can never have enough of those, and they last for, well, they don't last forever, but they last a good long time. So if I don't eat them on one ride, they're usually good for the next ride. For the water, sometimes the water just gets boring after a while, or you feel you need to replenish some electrolytes or something like that. So I carry those with me, some pills that dissolve in there. In case it ever gets cold or something ever happens where I need to be warm, these things are really, really good, just the mega warmers, so I bring those with me. I always have a spare pair of gloves. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes my hands just get tired in one set of gloves, and I might switch off during the ride, or if my gloves get wet, I can switch off to another pair. Exact same way with socks. I always have an extra pair of socks in case you get into the water, and there's nothing worse than riding with wet feet in those boots. They're not going to dry. You got to get your boots off, get your socks off, put on some dry socks, throw them back on, start riding again. You'd be good to go. Riding out here in the desert, we got a gazillion cactus plants out here. So I want to know if I fall into or crash through some cactus and I can't identify that thing, I need to know if I need to take any first aid action, or I can just pull the needle and press. So I got this nice little easy guide to all the cactus that we have out here in the desert. Some of our most common areas, I have a Forest Service printout, which works out real good for the mountain ranges that we're in, with all the trails by number. I also carry, of course, I always keep these in Ziploc baggies to keep them dry. I also have the Forest Service Ranger maps that I carry with me for the areas that we ride in. These are fantastic. If you can get a hold of a Forest Service map, they've got everything marked, all kinds of trails. Also inside here, because we're down in the southwest, riding close to the border, my Spanish is not that great, so I have an instant Spanish, English, Spanish translation guide that I carry in there as well. Some biodegradable toilet paper. Haven't had to use this yet. I hope I don't have to out on the trail, but if you need to have it. You never know when nature's going to call. A couple more bags, blankets, just to stay warm if you need to, or just to keep the sun off you too. If you break down out there in the middle of the desert, sometimes it's hard to find shade. So you can use these to make shade with, and that's the key thing. It's not uncommon to be at noontime and already be over 100 degrees. Your best bet in some cases is not try to push out, but instead rather try to get cover, get through the hot part of the day, and then get your plan together. Spare batteries. These batteries are for my GPS. My GPS and my spot communicator are rechargeable batteries, but if they die on the trail, then I have fresh batteries that I can put in there. The spot communicator is always on the front side of my backpack here, so I can get at it. Of course, if you watch some other videos, I can activate spot via the GPS that's on the bike, but if I get separated from the bike, I need to be able to activate it, and I can do that by having this up front. I used to carry this on the back of the backpack, back here, but I realized that I could get myself into a position where I might not be able to take the backpack off, and I might not be able to reach around to activate it. So I need this up closer, so this sits right up front where I can activate it if I need to. Carry a spare, just like the other one that's on the bike. This is just a dust, kind of like a bandana, but to keep the dust out of your mouth. A hat in case I do end up spending the night. I got a hat to keep my ears warm. I also have basically a snake and a bee first aid kit, specifically just for that. Of course, we're all here in the desert, rattlesnakes, etc. So if that happens, you could be hours and hours from the nearest help. So you try to bring all the help with you can. Of course, a flashlight if you need that. Some quick clot. Both a small clot and a much larger one if I need that to help stop the bleeding. A bunch of pads and gauzes that I have here, as well as some gloves if I need to wear them. First aid kit. I carry, it's a one-person first aid kit. It's one of the adventure medical kits. I love these things. This one here says 1 to 2 people. I felt it was a little shy for 2 people. I always ride with somebody else, never ride alone in the desert. So I want to have enough for 2 people if needed. So I beefed this one up just a little bit as well. But this has pretty much got everything, all the common stuff that you would need, as well as a little pocket guide on first aid. Carry that in there as well. That fits perfect up in the top. Oh, excuse me. Where's it at here? Here it is. Up in the top part of the Camelbag. That fits perfect up in there, so that's where I always put that. Inside here, you don't always want to have to get into this thing here, so I always have at the ready on the inside here. I got some ibuprofen, some aspirin that I carry in here, and then just quick type first aid, band-aids and antiseptic wipes and stuff like that, just in case. But that's up close. I always carry a pad of paper and a pen as well. This right here is for my friend. My friend being my trusty 9mm. God bless Arizona, but never go out in the desert unarmed, period. In the hot summer months out here, then I always go with the 3-liter, 100-ounce bladder for inside the bag. Right now, and it's currently April, here for about another couple, 2 or 3 weeks, I'll continue to use the 70-ounce 2-liter bladder. Just don't need that much water this time of year, but it's always good to have the extra liter if you need it. So I switch back and forth between these 2 bladders. So for the most part, that's the backpack. Nothing fancy, just stuff that I feel works for me. Everybody has their own way of tailoring the stuff they bring with them. Here riding in the Southwest, this is what I bring with me. Folks asked for me to cover it, so there it is. All right, ride safe.